Hey, good morning, friends. Hello, hello. It is a beautiful Thursday here, and welcome. Welcome to you. Welcome. Hope that all is well in your world. We, hey, Donna, good morning to you. Hope all is well. It's a good day. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Hope you're having a great day. We had the opportunity. If you didn't see it on our book, we're on our Facebook page. We're doing the little art project for our community by hosting a Before I Die wall. There's all kinds of information out on the page if you want to go check it out. But we got a nice write up in the local paper, so which was a real joy. It was really fun talking about it with the reporter too. That was fun for me. Um, and I thought she did a really terrific job of just kind of capturing what we had to say. So kudos on the Herald and their joy with us, or their um, spending some time with us. It was great. Hey, good morning, Karen. Glad you're here. Hope you're having a great morning. Jamie, hello, hello. Good to see you. Glad. Hope all is well. Jane, good morning. Hope you and John are well. Vicky, hope you're great. Hope you're healing up and doing well. Linda, good morning. How are you? Rosalia, good morning to you. Hope you're grand. So, hello. Decluttering clothes. St. Mary's and Bethlehem. Oh, that's lovely. Um, clothes. Though I never. All is well. Decluttering clothes. That's great. I continue. I just had the our local ministers meeting here the other day, and we were talking about the kind of the power of clothes ministry and just what it means, and both for people who receive clothes, which is awesome because they need them, and they're often a big piece of the expense of life for people who are on the margins, but also the act of people actually offering up their clothes, of going through things, and there was one story of a woman who had been waiting for to donate her husband's clothes after he had passed, and finally it had been some years, and finally she was able to decide that where they really needed to go was to the clothing ministry at our partners down at the Baptist Church, and it was really a beautiful story of not just somebody's going to get some great clothes that they need that are no longer being put to use, and that's all wonderful, but really this way of blessing someone else by letting go of their own grief and by letting go of their own pain, and by putting that and letting those items that were kind of symbolizing that in her world, going and offering that to people. So it's really beautiful. Uh, anyway, I'm rambling on already. Let's get going this morning. It is the eighth day of uh, September. We're already into the second week of September, friends. How is it even possible? I don't know. Um, so this morning, I want us to lean into to hear one of the old stories of, or the old one of the kind of the chestnuts of things that we remember or that we hear about. But I want to offer it to you in terms of ways that through the lens of a woman by the name of Mary C. Neal. Mary C. Neal is a doctor. She went on a kayaking trip down through um, in Chile, and became horribly injured, and all did was at the brink of death, and even writes a book about not only her recovery and her journey, but also the experience she had when she was near death, and her encounters with spirit and her encounters with the angelic. And it's a great book. It's written in 2011. I highly recommend it to you. Let me. Oh well, it's decided to walk away now. But it is To Heaven and Back is the book name of the book, and she offers us a beautiful glimpse. And this is close. This is personal for me because, I was a kid who didn't grow up in church, didn't grow up going to church or really with any faith formation. And much of my journey began around looking at these things called near-death experiences of kind of what people see and hear when their heart stops or when their breathing stops or when they're close to life, to the end of life. And some people don't see anything, some people have, but there are hundreds of thousands of people around the world. This became particularly apparent to me when I was spending time working in hospice, is that this happens way more often than anybody wants to admit, but nobody wants to be called crazy, so they often don't talk about these experiences. But there are often a common kind of experience that people have when they are extremely close to death, and it is beautiful and often dynamic, and there's a lot going on. So anyway, I won't tell Mary's story. If you want to go read that for yourself, I really encourage you to do so. It's a really beautiful book. But it has special meaning to me. But there's this one little chapter in it where she is she's laying in the hospital, and a couple of she's back in the States. A couple of deacons from her church come and visit, and they bring her this big stack of magazines, and they're all outdoorsy magazines. And she's an action adventure person, and she's been laid up forever, and she's just super excited to actually dig into these magazines because she's it's kind of this little tether to the life that she had been living up until she got hurt. And so the deacons depart, and she opens up these magazines, and all of a sudden, kind of she's not feeling right anyway, but her vision goes blurry, that she can't really make out the words in the magazines. And so she starts picking a couple different magazines, and still she doesn't feel well, and her eyes go blurry, and she kind of gets a little frustrated with this, and she tries to pick a couple other books, and finally she picks up the Bible that's on her bedside, and she begins to look through that, and she looks for some kind of well-known passages that she's in love, that she'd always kind of loved and had encouraged her, and even those she can kind of make them out, but they're blurry. And she's just about to set the Bible down, and she's kind of thumbing through the pages, and all of a sudden something comes clear. This one passage comes clear, just this one words from, and it's from Paul's first letter to the church in Thessaloniki, the 1 Thessalonians 5:16. Rejoice always. So of all the blurriness of all the words that she's trying to make out, she gets these two words: rejoice always. That's actually, by the way, the shortest verse in the Bible if you take the Bible in its kind of traditional language, which is Greek. In English, we know the shortest verse is Jesus wept. But in Greek, the shortest verse is rejoice always. The one thing that starts to become clear for her is this instruction from God to rejoice always. As she lays in bed, wounded, hurt, having had this incredible experience of spirit that she's trying to make sense of, as she's debilitated, rejoice always. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, this connection with joy that Spirit invites us to, that is not based on circumstance, that is not based on what's going on in our life, that's not based on whether or not we have a cookie or we don't have a cookie, but is based on the fact that we are a people provided for and loved by God, and spoken into being by God, and that being, that existence, is there for us to rejoice in. And so she begins to journey with this sense of how that she is being called in this moment, in this place, to rejoice. And as she continues to fumble with her Bible for a little longer, the next verse starts to come clear, which is pray without ceasing. these little instructions to pray without ceasing, to be in conversation with God. This is not about the great imploring God, oh Lord, you are so great, you are so absolutely huge, we're all really impressed down here, the Monty Python sort of way of praying. It is about this being in conversation with God, to tell our story of the heartbreak of our days and the wonders of our days and everything in between, to be in this ongoing, rambling conversation, to pray without ceasing. To not just approach when we need something like, oh Lord, help me, or not just to pray when we're having a great day and like, oh, thank you for the birth of a child or something, but to be in this constant conversation, to pray without ceasing, and to see that that's not just a power in for our own lives, but that the ability to pray for the world around us, to put the intention on the people and the things that we love in this world, and that not just the way that changes the world or that changes God, which is really not what's happening, but the way it changes us and our attention of carrying these people with us, and the way that it makes space and movement for God to do God's work in the world. The way that we have power in this way of being in conversation. So that the second verse that came clear was this little pray without ceasing. And as she continued to hold on, it was the third verse that she would be able to see for many days, actually, what came clear. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Give thanks in all circumstances. Here she is, laying in bed, broken, with people coming to bring her gifts and have some pity on her, and all she can see is these instructions of rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and give thanks in all circumstances. It is, I was reminded that she quotes this in her book, and it reminded me so powerfully of just this last weekend. I had the opportunity to visit with a few old friends. Justin and Catherine just happened to stop by their house, and they were home, and it was just a joy to spend time with them. And they're just these. They're like everybody else except bigger. They're just wonderful people, and I love them so much. And I don't get the chance to spend as much time with them as I do. And we got to visit with them. And Catherine, in great Catherine fashion, was actually baking homemade bread as we got there. I mean, what more? How more could I be provided for than to go visit people that I love in the middle of our time, when we're having this great and beautiful time of connection, but also this great and beautiful time of the opportunity to have some baked bread. And so there was this moment in which, but Mary C. Neal in her book, Dr. Neal, she actually tells this little parable. Which I was reminded of, and which made me kind of recognize that, and it's this story, which is when a poor man was given a loaf of bread, he thanked the baker, but the baker said, "Don't thank me, thank the miller. He's the guy who made the flour. I just put it together." So the poor man went down the road and thanked the miller, and the miller said, "Well, don't thank me. I just got the wheat and ground it up." So he said, go thank the farmer. He's the guy that makes the wheat. And so he goes further down the road and thanks the farmer. And the farmer said, "Don't thank me, thank the Lord. He gave me the sunshine and the rain and the wheat kernels and the fertility of the soil and everything that I needed to be able to grow the wheat. And that's why you have bread." That all of our graces, every one of them, every one of our graces, even just the the heart that beats in our chest, and the lungs that fill with air, and all the things in between have this are these graces that come from God. If we follow them back, and that is the reason that we can actually give thanks in all circumstances, because if we begin to follow the thread, even though the thread right now be breaking our heart, even though the thread right now might be filling us with anxiety, even though the thing right now may be a rock in our shoe that's making it hard for us to take even one step, but that in each circumstance, if we begin to give thanks, it inevitably and always leads us back to God and to the one who made us. Mary C. Neal couldn't see anything else for days. She tried to pick up other magazines. She tried to pick up other stuff, but she couldn't. She tried to even read other verses in her Bible. She couldn't do it. They became too blurry. Her head became swimmy. It was only when she returned to these 3 verses: rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and give thanks for all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. That became the most powerful, sustaining, long-term meditation on these simple but powerful instructions. And even not instructions, that doesn't even do them justice. Invitations to goodness and joy and wonder in our life and all the great things. And not just the great things, but the appreciation of the great things, the actually seeing them for great. The name of this chapter in her book, as short as it is, it's like 4 pages, is called Clarity of Vision. And she really states that for the first time in her life, she felt like she had clarity of vision about the nature of her created being and what she was being invited to in God's love and grace for her. That, friends, that is the long journey of our lives. The Sioux Indians have a phrase. They have a saying that says, "The longest journey of your life is the journey from your head to your heart." You know, we talked yesterday. We met in at Old White Church, and we talked about the power of that space and the power of our space and the 200 years their church had been there, and all of that the weddings and the beauty that had taken place there, and the way those weddings aren't just symbolic of 2 people coming together who like each other, but are this covenantal bond that comes together. And that we find it throughout Bible, and that bond, that covenant, that joy, that goodness is really in us. It is the journey of our head and our heart, of all the things we know, but we can't pull off because they're not dwelling in our heart. We haven't linked them. We haven't covenanted them to passion yet. And this long walk of bringing our heart and our head together is this divine marriage, this divine beauty, this invitation. And that the way of that is not trying to squint and make out all the things that we can't see, but the clarity of vision, I think, is locked in these 3 verses that Mary C. Neal saw in her injury and her recovery, and I think are invited for each one of us every day. That we might rejoice always, that we might pray without ceasing, and we might give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Friends, as we close up this week of 11/11s, we have we'll be worshiping at 10 a.m. this Sunday. I hope you'll come and be a part of it, whether you do so online and join us there on our website or on Facebook Live, or come and be a part of our journey on Sunday. We're going to talk football. Yeah. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to talk football? It's going to be a good day. So my prayer and my hope for all of you is that you may know the gift of and the joys of rejoicing always in your life, of always being in conversation with the one who made you, and always being able to follow those breadcrumbs home, follow and give thanks in all circumstances, because this is what God hopes for you. All right, peace and grace, my friends. We'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.